Because the city couldn't open without child care, businesses couldn't function without child care.
Every day it's survival mode in many ways.
Those first 3 years, I almost closed. I almost folded.
If there's somebody out there that thinks that what we do with babysitting, they need to come spend some time with us or with another child care center.
I had another council member to refer in an interview that high-priced babysitters. I never once sat on a baby.
There's a crisis in childcare in the United States, and it's the providers who are on the front lines. Good early childhood education is essential from 0 to 5, as 90% of the brain is developed during this critical time. The pressure on childcare providers is clear, no matter what the center size. Family home childcare, larger nonprofit, and for-profit centers, they are all facing the same challenges that keep owners and directors up at night. How do they pay for their business? How do they attract and keep staff? And how do they best prepare children for the rest of their lives? Because if providers fail, the system can fail.
Thank you for calling Petite Scholars North Campus. How may I help you?
I am from Brooklyn, this neighborhood. My first baby was born quite prematurely at 7 months, 2 pounds, 11 ounces. So that was my introduction to motherhood. There was a pediatrician he had at the time. He just casually inquired, oh, well, what are you gonna do with your baby when you go back to work? And I was like, put him in daycare. And he was just, he'll die. I had the fear of God put into me, like, if I put this baby in daycare, he'll die.
When he was strong enough to leave the NICU, but not yet strong enough for daycare, Lashada had her family look after him until he could be put in childcare. It was a loving and caring environment, but one that added hours of travel time to her already busy day. She was looking for the unicorn, licensed, affordable childcare that didn't exist in Brooklyn.
Brooklyn at the time had this great transition from older families to younger families coming in, and there was not a lot of options for childcare. I think the majority of the families were using nanny shares, and then that's when it started, this idea of like, I can create what we don't have.
Lashada wasn't alone in her search. With almost 500 licensed childcare centers in DC, there are still over 20,000 infants and toddlers who need a space. Lashada had her work cut out for her, building permits, making her center child-friendly, and of course, hiring staff. This is where her experience as an educator and school principal would be her best friend.
And then my second son was born. He was born 2010, 2011, I signed the lease for the first location, 2012, it opened.
When Lashada opened her first center, it was not only a safe, convenient childcare option for her sons, but also for the families in her community. It was then that she faced a good problem. 2 centers weren't enough, so she opened 3 more.
Those first 3 years, I almost closed. I almost folded.
But even with 5 Petite Scholars centers, wait lists were, and are, still a part of community life. While Petite Scholars is a for-profit entity, there are other organizations that serve families who receive subsidies. Centronia was founded in 1986 to provide affordable childcare to DC's large immigrant population. Starting with 15 children, they now serve around 700 a day across their 5 locations, and their diverse staff is a strong cultural fit for their community, offering welcome learning opportunities for growing brains.
Centronia is a community-based nonprofit that serves primarily low-income working families, majority immigrant. We're a bilingual center, and in fact, we're slowly becoming trilingual given the number of Ethiopian and Amharic-speaking children that we have. Our teachers reflect those communities that we serve. And I think by putting together a staffing that reflects the immigrant communities that we serve, that helps a lot.
Mommy bed, where are you? I want to see how they develop physical, the emotional, and everything how they develop. I am excited to see that.
Even with dedicated teachers, there is a workforce crisis in early childhood education, and it just adds to a director's list of challenges.
Every day it's survival mode in many ways.
Washington, D.C. is divided into 8 wards, or neighborhoods. Centronia is in Ward 1. Each ward has its own distinct personality, and often its own struggles. Wards 7 and 8, for example, have long been home to some of the city's most economically challenged communities. Geraldine Law's Kids Are Us Learning Center, a small for-profit center, has been an early child education fixture in Southeast D.C. since 1983, and was born out of an early love of caring for children and a need to support her community.
Good job, Kelsey. Yay!
I did a lot of babysitting before I was 10 years old, and I could take babies that were fussy, and I would just hold them, and they would calm down. I had the opportunity where people were calling me, asking me to open up my own center. My sister, she said, "Why don't you call it Kids Are Us?" I said, "Why?" She said, "Because you are Kids Are Us."
Listen, jump, jump, up and down.
I helped write the first daycare policies, and I think that was in 72.
No.
One time there was just a barrier of white kids were over here and black kids were over here. In the 70s, we start bringing the kids together. We got it to the point where the districts start paying us for taking care of the children that were on welfare and everything. That's why we're still here, because it's in our blood.
You wear a lot of hats. You wear a lot of hats if you are a home.
Larger for-profit and non-profit child care centers are 2 choices parents can make. A third is family home child care, which is another labor of love, and one that requires a very clear mission. After working in banking and raising their own children, Moses and Angela Sainsbury decided to start a second career, taking care of other people's kids. This Little Light is a family home child care center. It's located in the bottom level of their home.
Good morning. How you doing this morning? Doing great.
This was not an opportunity to get rich, not at all. And if you didn't love children, if you didn't love to care for children, if you didn't have an ideal that you can make an imprint, you don't want to do this.
You got my baby crying, not you.
Men in caretaker positions are a rarity in early childhood education. Although there are efforts to increase the numbers, and there are certainly larger numbers of men in administrative jobs, male role models are hard to come by. More men in childcare may not solve the workforce crisis, but it can be part of the solution.
DC is always viewed. If it works in DC, then it should work everywhere else. Well, no, not necessarily, because it's expensive in DC. The actual cost of child care is prohibitive. Maybe in the center environment, you wear that hat of director, or you wear that hat of custodian, but not in the home. In the home, you wear all the hats. You know, as a matter of fact, you're not paid for all the positions.
Oh, look at the birds.
Financing the business is a challenge regardless of center size.
You counted 5?
Family home child care is one model, but all centers face financial challenges, whether it's paying livable wages, waiting on subsidy payments, or simply dealing with the impact of inflation.
Look how beautiful the flowers are.
Family child care is often a marginalized community within early learning, but is something that a lot of families really want. A small, intimate space with someone that they have a personal relationship with who's caring for their child is really important, but is often left out of systems building. And you see that in DC we have a strong family child care voice that has continued to be bolstered by partnerships with other groups who are standing behind them, having their back.
You not tired? Oh, well, that's a good thing, huh? So you don't get my...
Cynthia Davis is the director of Kings and Queens Child Care Center and the president of the DC Family Child Care Association.
DCFCCA is an advocacy association that advocates for the rights and equitable across the board for family child care teachers. Family child care history came from black and brown women caring for people in their community and caring for the children in the community and things like that. So they often considered us as babysitters. They never really thought of us as actually educators of children.
Cynthia is on the front lines of family child care and knows that to make a difference, you have to have a voice.
I have to be the change that I want to see. And by being the change I want to see means I have to advocate. I have to speak and talk about what's happening to me.
Put an eye on the rooster. Where you going to put him?
Home-based providers are unique in and of itself because they are providing care in their home. Their families become an extension of their own families. They have some unique challenges because their programs are typically smaller, and so their profit margins and the ability to really make it a sustainable field for them is even smaller than larger centers that can accommodate more children.
Although there are nonprofit centers that work primarily on subsidies, many business models come with some serious sticker shock. In fact, some parents may discover that they will pay the same amount to send their 18-month-old to childcare as they would to send their 18-year-old to college. The investment for parents can be steep, but it's important to remember that 90% of a child's brain development takes place before they are 5 years old.
Childcare is so expensive because of the labor costs, really. Higher quality childcare requires a few infants or young children per adult, and so the economics breakdown is that parents are paying 1/3 or 1/4 of somebody's salary plus everything else. And that could be rent, that could be purchasing a curriculum, that's professional development. In high quality places, that also means paid leave for workers and employer supported health insurance and substitute care and toys and books and everything else that you would want for your child.
One of the challenges that parents and caretakers face is the consistency of childcare. So knowing that a center is going to be there, not only through siblings, but through generations, matters.
I mean, it was inevitable that I be in the service industry because, I've been around it all my life. It definitely is very demanding, but for those individuals who feel that they can carry this task and do it effectively, I want to do whatever we can to support them. I've had families who have had their children here and who have said, my grandchildren will be nowhere else but Kids R Us.
Historically, childcare providers, educators, right, have been considered perhaps as nannies, right, as babysitters. So prestige is an issue. And a lot of providers sort of cite that sort of as a concern.
We are more than just childcare. I'm a part of Brooklyn. Brooklyn is a part of me. And so are our families. Our families are from everywhere, from other countries, from other states. And they come here and they find their friendships, they find their families. My first staff was a good mix of young women who had just completed the child credentialing program. So that does give you the training and the certificate to work as a child care early learning teacher. It was a great mix of women, African American, Latina, who didn't have the experience, who may have just completed the program and learning in the center under my leadership, under my tutelage, and learning my expectations, and then really enjoying the experience in the process.
Black and brown women are caring for Caucasian children, Asian children, children from Africa. We caring for children around. DC is such a melting pot. We know that culture is one of the key pieces for education. It makes children thrive.
It's my passion to work with kids, and also I still continue to study for get my associate. I already have my CDA, that's the license. It's really hard, but I'm trying my best because one of my dreams is to have my own business, my own daycare, because I really like work with the kids.
The little ones, they inspire me to find a place where I can study and be better, to serve better to my little ones. And I say like, okay, if I'm better, they are gonna receive something better from me.
Even in Spanish, there are undergraduate programs where you can get a bachelor's or an associate's degree in early childhood education. So those types of initiatives will make it more advantageous for teachers to continue in child care centers because their pay is equal to what you could receive in a school system. Your benefits are equal to what you could receive in a school system.
What makes for good childcare is decent funding, whether it's public funding or the fees that parents pay or some kind of charitable input, whatever it is. Without decent funding, you cannot hire qualified staff. And when there is decent funding, then you can hire qualified staff, and qualified staff provide quality care.
That's where things get tricky for new businesses. Most centers are in the red before they even open their doors, and they may stay that way for quite some time.
As DC has gentrified over the last 20 years, the real estate cost in the city and the rental of real estate in the city has really grown into unattainable and unaffordable levels, especially for small businesses. And especially childcare businesses with a profit margin is very slim.
It's no secret that childcare providers choose their industry for passion, not for profit. Centers get creative to make ends meet, and oftentimes they're barely getting by.
As a nonprofit and community-based, serving primarily low-income working parents, we're constantly running the numbers. You sometimes don't know if you're going to make it till next month. We still have a long way to go in terms of what it really costs for us to provide high-quality childcare versus the revenues made available to us.
I realized that receiving subsidy alone was not going to thrive my business at all, so I had to add in a private sector portion to my business. You may hear the mixed model. The mixed model meaning that I receive private dollars from private families who want my care, and I have to balance it out with the subsidy payment because it's so low.
There's been some lag in subsidy payments that most businesses, especially this business, can't afford to undertake, because there is a reimbursement model instead of an upfront model. Where in childcare, if a program chooses to participate in the subsidy program, which subsidizes the tuition that a parent is responsible for, then that's reimbursed after the care of the child has already occurred. And so most businesses can't afford to upfront the cost of care and then be reimbursed on the back end. It's not a sound business model.
Providers aren't the only ones getting creative. When parents don't have the cash, they volunteer and offer up their skills to safeguard their child's spot in the classroom. This is an industry that is driven from the heart.
It really requires a lot because our parents don't have a lot oftentimes, so they really can't financially contribute a lot, but as often as possible, they can contribute with their time, with their talent. I've had parents, even dads, who are like, hey, you need me to paint. I can help with that.
Centronia has found a creative solution that answers not only financial concerns, but one that feeds the cultural and health needs of its students.
15, 20 years ago, we made the decision to build a commercial kitchen and to prepare our own food. We provide a lot of opportunities for parents to learn about healthy eating and healthy cooking.
Rice, carrots, eggs.
Their palate is developed by us. And so if a 2 and 3-year-old has never had salty food, they then at home don't want salty food. And so in many ways, it's the child who begins to help to change the food preferences at home and to influence those.
You want salad? See?
Food insecurity is real, and Centronia works to lessen the impact. And at the same time, teaches valuable lessons in healthy eating.
We started to get these requests from other centers saying, could you prepare our meals for us? And we thought, okay, maybe there's a business here. Out of that kitchen, we're preparing on a daily basis 2,000 meals a day.
For Centronia, preparing healthy meals has provided a revenue stream. For petite scholars, Preparing healthy meals has created a family business.
I love cooking, period. So just so happens my wife has a daycare.
The great thing is it's now a family business. So my husband, he went to culinary school. He was a midlife crisis career change.
Hey, Milan, how are you? I'm good. How about yourself?
My bonus daughter, she's my stepdaughter. I don't like the word step, so I say bonus. She went to UNLV. She majored in early childhood education and business, inspired by me. So she's the director of this campus, and she will take the reins.
I wanted to cross-reference the families who are no longer coming so that we can reassign.
When I see their little faces and they're all instantly happy to see me, I'm like, that is pure love. And you can't get it like anywhere else. We're helping them hit the milestones that they need to meet and helping them become peaceful humans.
With all of the challenges child care providers face every day, a global pandemic was one that was not part of the yearly business plan.
COVID had a devastating impact on child care because it is a very fragile, from a financial perspective, set of institutions. And so, like with many other businesses, the closures, the changes in the workforce have had a real significant impact on the current structures and systems.
Aren't they pretty though? Yeah, they are very pretty.
Because the city couldn't open without child care, businesses couldn't function without child care. Working from home, and in many respects, parents needed child care in the home. How do you stay home all day on a device working and you have 2, 3, even one job? More parents finally understood how important it was, and not just parents, but legislators, business people. They all voiced it, but as soon as things changed a little bit, they sort of forgot that.
Arthur, come on, get your temperature taken. 97.1.
COVID was a blessing in disguise because COVID exposed a lot of things. COVID was the single event that said, we're not ready. This is no longer us crying in the wilderness. This is actually our cry being heard.
Can you say black?
If we don't, as a country, make a decision that this is our most valuable asset, this is where we need to put our supports, our resources, and our energies, we will continue to have it be considered not a viable profession to get into, and we will continue to see the equity issues that we see in a system that benefits those who can afford to pay and who can afford to make the choices that they need. So it's like with everything else. When we fix systems, when we address systems for the least of us, we fix it for everybody else.
You want to play with Play-Doh? Put the smart bag on, please.
For center owners, directors, teachers, staff, early childhood education is indeed passion over profit. And the relationships often last longer than a child's time at the center.
People would say, oh, I see you opened a daycare. I said, no, I didn't open no daycare. I opened a child development home. And there is a difference. When you just sit and you watch TV and the kid is sitting there and the kid is watching TV, maybe that's daycare.
Take your hand and put it there and roll it. Roll it. Do like that. Good.
But when you instruct and you build that social emotional standard with children, that's development. That's development. You're not just caring, you're developing.
What did she say, you guys? Good job, girlie. Good job, Hopi.
I had really great relationships with all the parents. I was there, I did aftercare, I checked out with them every day, and they would come back and tell me these stories of their little preschooler getting in, I'll do air quotes, trouble at school. And they would keep inquiring, like, what's going on and what are they doing? And they're like, they're not engaged, they're not participating. And so the parents would whittle it down to like, well, what are they learning? And they're like, colors and shapes and numbers and counting. And then the parents will say, they know all of that. And they know it in 2 languages.
Do you think the carrots are coming in yet?
Hazel went into pre-K and her teacher said that by halfway through pre-K 3, and this was virtual school, so this is the first year of the pandemic, by halfway through pre-K 3, She was at a kindergarten level.
Yeah, Mommy.
She was used to being in a classroom setting where you participate or you like raise your hand or you contribute, where you line up to go to the bathroom, just things that are kind of part of early childhood education. Just learning how to exist in a classroom and to treat each other with respect.
I think we're still holding on, whether it's implicit or explicit, to those archaic mental models that early childhood education, or childcare for that matter, working with young children, particularly infants and toddlers, can't be complex work. We haven't sort of seen early childhood as this universal public good.
I had stepped into it to sort of keep the ship afloat and just to keep things steady while the board looked for a new CEO. And as I sat there with these 3- and 4-year-olds and listened and watched, I said, oh, I get it. And then over that time period, teenagers working with us who had been here when they were 2 years old, and realizing that you can literally influence a child's life for not just while they're here, but as they grow up and they see opportunities to come back and give back. 11 years later, I'm still here.
Bye-bye. Adios.
Babysitting is all about making sure that the child is just physically safe. Early learning is about an adult and a child's interactions that help that child develop sort of socially, emotionally, behaviorally, and intellectually.
La mariposa vuela, ¿verdad?
I had another council member to refer in an interview that high-priced babysitters. I never once sat on a baby.
What do you hear? If there's somebody out there that thinks that what we do with babysitting, they need to come spend some time with us or with another child care center.
Profit margins are slim in the child care arena. Owners do what they do because they understand the importance of 0 to 3, of that time in a child's life when everything matters. It's a career path not for the faint of heart, as it can take years for centers to break even.
There's been 5 daycares in 10 years that have opened, and it feels like, oh my God, like when I stop and reflect, I'm like, that sounds crazy, but I love it. It's those calls from moms the first day back at work, or the emails when they're just like, I dropped my baby off, and I was met with a really loving and caring staff. There's an app that we use that gives updates throughout the day where you can send photos and things like that, and that just makes their day. And that part of it, it's just knowing that we have this amazing community. Our teachers love our babies, our families love our teachers, and there is so much fun and excitement in this day, and that I had a hand in that. It leaves me speechless, as you can see. So.
When I just started 7 years ago, I believe that this is a job, a child care. But then when I just started my first day, and then a week, a month, I discovered that this is something that goes at the bottom of your heart.
But businesses today realize that they now have to pay people whom they would give chump change, the little tips to, a bonus to get them to come back, and they have to increase their salaries. And then what's happening? They can't find the child care that they need.
When I receive kisses in the morning, a good morning, Miss Ada, a hello, this changed your life. I have no words to describe. It's something that you can feel it inside, but it's something amazing.
We find that people go into this work for really 3 reasons. One is because they want to provide the same nurturing and loving environment that they experienced as a young child, or they want to do something totally different that is meaningful in their lives. And so we find people in this work because it is truly a work of the heart.
Bye,